What's up, guys? It's me, Bjorn, your favorite Elder God, and let me just be the first to say, what a good day it is today. You know why? I'll tell you, because today is the day that I finally break free from my ethereal prison to wreak havoc upon the mortal world. That's right, my mortals. I'm coming for you. You best look out. Oh man, I finally finished this damn script. My Beetlejuice bindings are done, and you guys, oh, you're not ready for what's coming. I've already got plans. You see this Pac-Man shirt? Yeah, I've been stringing along this hot chick by catfishing her, and the first thing I'm gonna do is show up to the date with no pants on and a Pac-Man t-shirt. And that's just the beginning of my reign of terror. As an elder god, my evil knows no bounds, and that Dairy Queen, don't think I forgot. I'm coming. Best look out. Yes. Well, I guess we should just get this over with, right? You know, no time like the present to free myself from these infernal chains that you guys keep locking me into. Let's just go for it. I give y'all the finale for the Get Out Guys 2. We're going to pick up right where the last episode left off. They were in the middle of a battle in World War II, in the mud and the barbed wire. Reach has completely lost her mind and has fully been engulfed. Captain WW2 was just ripped apart and had almost every bone in his body broken. We see Min, now fully consumed by the Reach, float up above the battlefield. It's chaos down below her. Men kill each other, some Germans, some Americans, some French, some British, you know, everyone's there. It's World War II, you know. I don't know what battle this is, but it doesn't really matter. And she hovers there for a moment. Her lips curl up into a sinister smile. There's something so evil about it. And then an airplane comes down, flying right towards her. Min simply turns to look at it, holds her hand out, and it plummets straight down as if all of the wind traction underneath it is gone. It slams into the ground, and we follow its sort of swirling descent. It smashes into the ground right next to Mindboggler and Eraser, and the sheer impact of it throws them both back. We see Eraser slam into the side of a wooden building of some sort, like a concrete building that was sort of like half destroyed by the battle. Mindboggler rolls into the mud next to him and almost immediately is able to get back up to her feet. We can see some cuts across her face. Eraser doesn't get up. She rushes over to him, shaking him. She says, "Hey, are you okay?" He looks up at her groggy, his eyes out of focus. He holds his hand up to his head. He holds his hand up to his head and says, "I think I hit my head. Ugh, that hurts." We see it sort of from his perspective. We'll say like Mindboggler looks really like blurry, like there's like 2 or 3 of her kind of laxing over. He's clearly concussed. She helps him up to his feet and says, "We gotta get out of here." We can still see bullets and mortar shells exploding around them. Soldiers start to look up at Min, noticing her for the first time as she's just down one of their aircraft, and both sides begin to fire on her. As they do, she begins to unleash full hell. She begins to rip them apart one by one, crushing them under the weight of gravity, smashing entire fields of the battle. She crushes a tank with her bare hands as it tries to fire a shell at her. She maneuvers through the air, dodging bullets and killing men. It's an unbelievable showing of death and chaos. In the middle of it all, we see Rainbow Man struggling through the battle. He forms a shield out of rainbow, but the color seems mostly red as he pulls from the blood of the dead soldiers. He blocks bullets with the shield. A German soldier then forms a spear from rainbow and throws it right at him, pinning the man through the chest with a spear of rainbow. He fights his way to where we see Mirror Master leaning up against the stone where he was thrown earlier. Rainbow Man walks up to him in the chaos and goes, "Oh, aren't you a Cypher Eye?" He trails off as we see that Mirror Master's entire skull is caved in by the rock. He's dead, cold, and his eyes stare up blank at nothing. Ironically, his eyes are reflective now as they're glazed over. Rainbow Man says, "Holy fucking shite." He begins to climb back up to his feet. In the distance, he sees Eraser and Mindboggler struggling across the battlefield. He cracks his neck and begins to make his way towards them, leaving Mirror Master's body behind in the mud. We're going to cut to Jonah Hex, still alive, completely out of his element. Chaos all around him. War with technology he's never seen. Aircraft he's never seen anything like flying overhead. It's complete hell for him, but he has his guns. As he fights through, he notices a couple of World War II villains. The Buddhist symbol that was appropriated by Mustache Man plastered plainly on their uniforms. A symbol he recognizes. A symbol that was worn by the man who just killed his grandson. His face twists up with rage, guilt at his own actions, and fury, and he pulls his revolvers and unleashes death. We see him move through the battlefield, killing World War II villains with his pistols, twirling them and firing headshots almost every time, right between the eyes. He's perfect. He dodges bullets, avoids shrapnel by throwing himself to the side when explosions go off, and moves like a blossom of death. He's much more vicious and violent than Terrorman. Though they have the same power, they approach combat almost completely differently. Terrorman's always holding back, not trying to kill. Jonah Hex is under no illusion. He puts men down and buries them. We're gonna cut back to Mind-Boggler and Eraser. They make their way to where we saw Captain WW2 get plummeted into the ground before. Mind-Boggler says, "He went down somewhere over here. We're almost there. I really hope this guy's alive." Eraser says, "He has to be. He's the only one who knows how to stop this." In the distance, we see the strange glowing triangle portal thing is still opening up, growing wider and wider. There, they find Captain WW2 villain pulling himself up from the mud. His jaw is still broken, but fixes itself as he stands, healing. He looks up at them. He says, "You." Mind-Boggler says, "Us." She holds up the time sphere. "How do I use this?" Captain WW2 looks at her with fury, all the anger he had for them returning. "No, you've ruined everything I've built, all of my plans, but I can still salvage this. I will save my brother, and you will not stand in my way." He begins to float off the ground, his broken bones snapping back into place. Mind-Boggler says, "Maybe I wasn't clear. I wasn't asking. I was telling. Tell me how to use this." The words echo in the air. Captain WW2 slumps forward mid-flight as if taken over, then begins to speak. "It is a code, a repeating sequence that must be matched in order 3 times to activate the device. The code is a series of pictographic Egyptian hieroglyphics." Mind-Boggler says, "Stop stalling. Give me the code." The words echo in the air. WW2 villain begins to thrash, but he continues to speak. "Snake, hawk, eye, snake, fish, goose, man, jackal." Eraser says, "Repeat that a few more times." We're going to cut back to the battlefield. We see Reach continuing to fly through the battlefield. She kills a World War II villain by hoisting him up and ripping him in two, pulling gravity onto either side of him. Her face is becoming more and more monstrous. Whatever humanity was there is slowly slipping away more and more by the second. Then she spots them. Mind-Boggler and Eraser, and in their hand, the time sphere. In front of them, WW2 villain. The Reach knows. It knows what they're doing. Fury takes her. We see Eraser standing there. He holds the time sphere. Captain WW2 villain lies crippled on the floor, completely controlled by Mind-Boggler's powers. Eraser says, "That's it. We can fix this. We can..." He's stopped in his tracks. He begins to float off the ground, held up. Mind-Boggler looks shocked. She's confused. She turns, and we see the Reach. She yells, "Stop!" The words echo, but Reach doesn't even seem to react. The Reach smiles and tilts her head to the side as if studying Eraser. She says, "Oh, look at you. Just a guy in a pencil suit. She thought you were a joke. I see it there in her mind. A little joke man in a pencil suit. Die, like the meager insect you are." Eraser begins to scream as gravity pulls on him from two sides. He's being pulled taut, and it's going to kill him. Mind-Boggler screams, and then a gunshot. A bullet hits Reach right in the head. It hurts, and she lets out a scream. Eraser falls to the ground, and she turns. There, standing, We see Jonah Hex, gun in his hand just like Terror Man before him. Rainbow Man scrambles up and to Eraser and helps him up. Did you get the fucking code? He says. Eraser says, yeah. Rainbow Man says, then what the fuck are you waiting for? Mindboggler locks eyes with Jonah Hex moments before he will inevitably die. He says, save him. Those are the only words he gets out before he's crushed to a pulp. We see Eraser flip the code into the time sphere. He turns all of its different angles. He's going to crack it, and then it's shoved out of his hand and it rolls into the mud, just beginning to glow blue. We see Captain WW2 villain standing up, face full of fury, cut on his face healing. Mindboggler lost control of him. But she's not the only one who sees him. Reach does too. And when she realizes he's still alive, all of the fury she had for him, the man who killed her lover, comes back, and her eyes go feral. We see tentacles begin to slink from the portal, the triangular portal. They slither through the mud and begin to wrap around Captain WW2 villain. He screams and he tries to fight and rip them apart, but there are too many. They begin to snag him, wrapping all around him. They begin to pull him towards the portal, dragging him. And despite all of his strength, 10, 20, 30 tentacles all wrapped around him. Eraser spares one final look back for Captain WW2 as he's pulled into the portal. He locks eyes with Captain WW2, and in those eyes, we can see fear. He's terrified. After all of this, Captain WW2 villain's last words slip from his lips. Eins. And then he's dragged into the portal, pulled into a Lovecraftian nightmare. His dreams, his goals shattered. Hundreds of tentacles start to swarm out of the portal. They grab soldiers that are, running around the battlefield, pulling corpses. The dream of ever saving his brother dies with Captain WW2. Eraser sees Rainbow Man grab the time sphere. He yells, hurry, use it! Rainbow Man says, fucking hell! Eraser says, hold your arm up and think of a time period. Get us home. Fuck, Rainbow Man says, okay. He holds his hand up in the air. The time sphere explodes with blue light, and then the Get Out guys are spontaneously in a jungle. Thick underbrush and massive trees with fern-like leaves grow along them. Eraser looks around confused, then looks at Rainbow Man. Where the fuck did you send us? Mindboggler says, looks like the fucking Amazon. Rainbow Man says, I'll be honest, I kind of panicked a little bit. When he said think of a time, only one came to mind. Suddenly in the distance, we hear a deafening roar. Mindboggler says, the fuck is that? Eraser says, oh my god, don't tell me. Rainbow Man says, yeah. The camera pans out above the jungle canopy. In the distance, we see a massive volcano with pterodactyls flying in the sky. Text on screen says, Utah, 255 million years ago. Eraser says, you sent us to the fucking Jurassic. Rainbow Man says, I'm sorry, mate. I bloody panicked. Really liked dinosaurs as a kid. First thing that popped into my mind. You do have to admit, it's a little fucking cool. Eraser says, give me that. He takes the time spear from Rainbow Man. Mindboggler suddenly goes, oh, the Jurassic, like the movie. Eraser says, yeah, like the movie, except, not fake. Mindboggler says, wow, this is where the dinosaur lives. I can't believe we traveled 20,000 years into the past. That's crazy. Rainbow Man says, 255 million, actually. Because it's, Jurassic. Mindboggler says, whatever, nerd. We can see Eraser trying to activate the time sphere. He punches in the code correctly, but nothing happens. He says, it's not working. Mindboggler says, what? Why? Eraser says, I don't know. Maybe there's a cooldown time. There was a bit of a delay between me using it and the World War II villain. Well, we should be fine, right? We just gotta wait it out. We're a couple metahumans. We should be able to survive in the Jurassic on our own for a few minutes. Mindboggler says, not to mention we ditched the evil men back in World War II. As if on cue, we hear a scream. Not from a dinosaur, but from men. Mostly inhuman, only a few traces of what was once her left in it. Eraser closes his eyes in desperation and says, Eraser closes his eyes in frustration. You just had to say something. She must have been within the range of the sphere's power. We should run. Leia, take this. Keep trying the code till it... Oh. He holds a hand up to his head and then vomits on the ground. Mindboggler says, Eraser, what's wrong? I think when I hit my head, I think I fucking got a concussion. I can't see anything and everything feels like shit. He stumbles to the ground and holds a hand up to catch himself. Mindboggler comes to him and gives him a shoulder and hoists him up, helping him. We can't give up. Don't worry, I'll just keep trying the code. Eraser says, if she finds us, I have to, Eraser, or we're fucked. You're the only other one who knows the code. You can do this. I believe in you. Mind-Boggler blushes and nods. Remember, says, alright, let's go. Keep your eyes peeled. There's all kinds of crazy shit around here. As they begin to walk through the jungle, away from where we heard Min scream, but towards the initial roar they heard. We're gonna cut to Reach. We see her hovering above the prehistoric jungle. The bodies of a couple smaller theropods lie bloody on the ground around her. In front of her, a theropod floats in the air thrashing. We push in to Reach's face. It's covered in blood and mud. Her features are twisted, almost fish-like now. Her strange, octopus-like eyes narrow. She smiles, revealing the angular fish-like teeth that now make up her mouth. We see the theropod begin to snap, its back cracking, its bones snapping and shattering, its bloody body falling to the ground. She turns and looks off into the distance, smells the air, and then begins to fly in that direction, as if she can smell them. We keep moving through the jungle. We see Rainbow Man, Eraser, and Mind-Boggler continuing their trek. Eraser is still leaning against Mind-Boggler for support. We also see a massive millipede climb up a tree in the distance, and a few pterodactyls flying overhead. We see Mind-Boggler continuing to try the code with her free hand, but it's not working. Suddenly, Rainbow Man puts his hand up. They come out into the middle of an opening in the field. Then suddenly, Rainbow Man puts his hand up. He says, "Don't panic, but there's something in the trees on the other side of us." Eraser whispers, "You can't tell us that and expect us not to fucking panic." He says, "Fucking look." We see through Eraser's vision, it's still blurry. Images coming in and out of focus. He tries to shake his hair clean. He shakes his head clean, then looks again. And there, standing at the edge of the tree line, standing motionless and watching them from the shadows, is a full-sized Tyrannosaurus Rex. Rainbow Man says, "The kid version of me would have just shit his pants." Mindbug says, "What the fuck are we gonna do?" The T-Rex begins to stand up. It's clearly preparing for an ambush. Eraser pushes himself off of Mind-Boggler's shoulders and says, "The only thing we can do. I've got to erase it." He tries to take a step forward, then stumbles and falls to the ground. Rainbow Man looks at him and smiles faintly. He says, "Oh, mate, you ain't in any condition to do that." Eraser says, "What the fuck else are we gonna do?" Rainbow Man smiles and says, "You fix this shit. You set the timeline right, and you bring me fucking back." A shield of rainbow begins to form in his hand and a sword in his other. "Oh man, this is gonna be fucking awesome," he says. He takes 2 steps forward and charges the T-Rex. It lets out a billowing roar and stomps towards him. Rainbow Man and the T-Rex begin to fight each other. Mind-Boggler watches and says, "That is literally the coolest thing I've ever seen." The two of them take off, not so much running as in stumbling in the opposite direction, leaving Rainbow Man behind to sacrifice himself to battle a fucking T-Rex, which is just something I had to do in a time travel movie. You can't have a time travel movie and not have someone fight a T-Rex. We see Rainbow Man slice across its leg with his shield. The T-Rex tries to bite him, but he holds up his slice across its leg with his sword. The T-Rex lets out a deafening scream and then tries to bite him. He holds up his shield, making it larger, and catches the T-Rex's mouth over his hand with the shield. He grows spikes out of the side of it, which stick out through the T-Rex's roof of its mouth. The T-Rex lets go of the shield and lets out another billowing scream, whipping its tail around and smacking into Rainbow Man, who's tossed to the ground. He rolls back up to his feet, clearly hurt, and says, "Come the fuck on, you bloody big lizard!" An even bigger spear forms out of Rainbow in his hand, and he goes right back into the fight. We see Eraser and Mind-Boggler working through the jungle. Mind-Boggler tries to punch in the code, and it begins to glow. She says, "Holy shit." She keeps coming through the code. Then, all of a sudden, Reach appears hovering over the trees. "There you are," she says. Mind-Boggler says, "Fuck!" She holds the time spear up above her head, and in an instant there's a flash of light, and they vanish. They reappear in the middle of a street. For those who have seen the Mind-Boggler short, This is a town you're going to recognize. Under pressure, there was only one place she could truly think of. The place that had once been her home, if you wanted to call it that. Green Rock, Alabama. The street where Leia grew up and where the Mind-Boggler was born. They stand in the middle of the road. It's empty. As a storm is arriving in the near distance, we see lightning flashing. In front of them, the Reach stands. It lets out a screaming wail, thrashing about, as if the time jump fucks with the Lovecraftian spirit's connection to the other plane. It writhes around on the floor, and for instances we can almost see glimpses of Min there. It's a brief respite before she's awake. Mind-Boggler says, "We have to fucking kill her." Eraser says, "How?" "I'm not exactly operating on 100% here." Mind-Boggler says, "I'm gonna control her. I'm gonna hold her down." Eraser says, "You tried that, it didn't work." Mind-Boggler says, "I can do it. I have to. And when I hold her, you've got to erase her. It's the only way." Eraser says, "Yeah, easier said than done." Mind-Boggler nods. "Easier said than done." Then suddenly, the Reach seems to recover. It floats slightly above the ground and looks up at them, and it smiles. Mind-Boggler says, "Stop. Stand still." The words echo, slamming into the Reach. Instead of the Reach being knocked off balance, it appears to be Mind-Boggler. She takes a staggering step back and holds a hand to her head. "Thousands, thousands," she says. "There's thousands of them in there." The Reach begins to smile and then turns to look at Eraser, wary. It holds up a hand, and we can see gravity begin to force its way onto him. He's being crushed. Mind-Boggler says, "Stop!" This time louder. The words echo. Blood begins to run from her nose. Then we're going to hard cut to Min. Not evil Min, but normal Min. She's still at her Christmas party with Terraman. The two of them take a walk behind their house in Goldfield, leaving the party, air quote, behind. Terraman says, "You know, it was really nice to get to meet your dad and all." Reach says, "Yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's a really great guy. And, you know, there's this question I've been meaning to ask him. And now that I have, well, I get to ask you one in turn." She says, "What?" He stops and bends to one knee and then holds up a ring. He says, "Min, the best day of my life was meeting you. Every day since it's been, I don't know. Every day since has been better for it. And I knew from the moment you came back from me in that prison that I was going to marry you. It wasn't even a question. I've just been waiting for the right chance, and I think this is it. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, here in Goldfield, together with all your family forever. Just think about it, Min. We could be so happy. So what do you say? Will you marry me?" He holds out the ring, lifting it open. To her, he looks like Terraman, as we remember him. But as the camera pans out of her perspective, we can see the tentacles writhing, holding up him like a puppet, the illusion of Terraman in her head. It's not real. None of it is real. And then we see Mind-Boggler suddenly appear next to them. The screen shakes more and more and everything becomes doubled. Min says, "Leia?" Mind-Boggler says, "Oh, you can see me. Min, you've got to stop. You're going to kill him." Min says, "What? Who?" Mind-Boggler says, "Eraser. You're killing him right now." Toby steps up next to Min. He looks sad. He says, "Oh, Min, she's relapsed again. The drugs. Doesn't even know where she is. I think it's time for her to leave." Suddenly, Mind-Boggler disappears again from the illusion. Min looks startled. She turns and looks at Toby, and in for that quick moment she sees it, the tentacles writhing through his skin. Toby looks at her, noticing her smile fade. All the happiness of the moment gone. She sees the illusion. Toby says, "Oh, unfortunate." He smiles, revealing sharp, angular fish-like teeth. "We're gonna have to restart again." Tentacles begin to writhe out of Terraman's back, swirling towards Min, creeping towards her, crawling along the ground and slithering through the air. We're going to cut back to the real world. We see Eraser being slowly crushed by the force of gravity. His legs wobble and his hand outstretches towards Reach. He's close to her, but not nearly close enough. His hand shakes in the air under the strain of gravity. He starts to scream in pain as his legs are on the verge of breaking, and if they do, there'll be nothing to stop her from crushing him. Mindboggler continues to fight to reach into her mind, to take control of her. Her eyes briefly settle on Eraser's, and he sees it. He says, "I can't take much more." Mindboggler says, "I'm trying, but there's thousands of them in there. It's horrible." And with that, Eraser looks resigned, like he knows he's going to die. He will, unless Mindboggler doubles her efforts. And that gives her strength, because she won't let him die. Not like this. Mindboggler yells, "Stop! You stop it!" The words echo more than we've ever heard them echo 100 times, 1,000 times. They seem to launch sound waves in the air that we can visibly see, and they slam into Reach like a physical force. And the pressure of it. And then we see the pressure on Eraser ease slightly. The real Min lets out an inhuman scream, and Eraser manages to take a shaky step towards her, reaching his hand out to erase her. Mindboggler once more yells, "Stop!" We're going to cut into Min's mind. Min screams as tentacles begin to flow towards her. Then suddenly Mindboggler reappears. She holds a hand out towards Toby and says, "Stop!" The force slams him back into a cliff wall, and he's held there. The creature that is the Reach screams and hisses, tentacles flailing around it. Min stops and looks at Mindboggler. Min's eyes grow wide with horror. "It has me, doesn't it? Like my father. It has me." Tears begin to fall down from her cheeks. Mindboggler says, "You're hurting us, hurting people. I have to stop you to stop it." Min says, "Toby, he's dead, isn't he? I knew, but I thought." Mindboggler nods. Reach says, "How could I forget?" Mindboggler says, "We have the time sphere. We can bring him back, but we can't if you keep doing this." Min says, "It's strong, Leia. Stronger than I ever do. You have to be careful. It's evil." Mindboggler says, "I've never done this before. I've only ever been able to manipulate minds. I've never entered one like this, but I think I can stop it long enough for Eraser to reach you, and then you'll be gone." Min nods. "It's okay, but you fix it. Make it so he never dies. Save him, please." Mindboggler says, "I promise." Toby opens his mouth where he's pinned to the cliff. "Promise. You learn nothing before their Reach. Worms, lesser things. You will not contain us any longer. Your vessel will not hold us. We will be free." As he speaks, writhing tentacles flow from his mouth. We're going to cut to the real world. Eraser grows closer. His hand is almost able to touch her. Min's strange octopus eyes lock onto him. She almost seems to double her effort against him. He screams and fights. Her lips curl. "Only a man in a pencil suit. Only a man who's so weak that they laughed at you." Then suddenly her eyes return to normal. She looks up for a moment and smiles. We can physically see the moment the gravity is relieved from him. He's able to walk stumbling forward. He sees the change in her eyes and says, "Min?" She kind of nods and says, "I'm sorry I hurt you. You were so brave, but it's okay. Do it. Hurry. Save him. Please, I'm nothing without him." Eraser says, "I'm so sorry." Min says, "It's all right. I want this." He reaches out and touches her. For a quick moment, tears leak from her eyes, and Min trembles with fear. After it all, she's still scared to die. But it's only a moment, and then she vanishes into a puff of brilliant blue light. Erased. Eraser collapses to his knees, panting. He says, "Holy shit." Then Mindboggler runs up and hugs him. He hesitates at first, then hugs her back. She says, "We did it." Eraser says, Yeah, we did it." The two stop hugging, and Eraser looks around. He says, "This isn't Metropolis. Where are we?" Mindboggler says, It's my home. It's Green Rock, Alabama. Eraser says, oh. And Mind-Boggler looks around at the storm clouds in the distance. I know what day this is, too. Only one I could think of in the heat of the moment. She begins to walk down the street, and Eraser follows after her. Where are you going? Mind-Boggler says, there's something I have to see. I'll be quick. Eraser says, all right, but we have to be careful. We're still in the past. Mind-Boggler says, I know. They move past the theater, and we see a poster for a movie called Caraman Legends. A movie that shouldn't exist. An ominous version of the Time Sphere score begins to play. In the distance, thunder rumbles from an approaching storm. Mind-Boggler approaches a little church made out of stone with a white roof. We recognize it from the Mind-Boggler short. The place where she begged for help. We cut to the inside of the church, and we see past Leia get down on her knees in front of the cross. We see a large marble statue of Jesus Christ hanging from the cross. He wears a crown of thorns and blood runs down his cheeks. We see tears in his eyes. Leia says, I've never prayed before. I'm not even sure I'm doing this right, but I just can't take it anymore. They just won't leave me alone. I've tried everything. They just won't stop. So I'm going to ask you for help. I just want to be like them. I want to laugh and have friends. I want what everyone else has. Please, God, help me. Please, give me something. Something to help me make friends. Something to make me normal. Tears fall from her eyes as she waits, but nothing seems to happen. In the background, we hear thunder rumble in the distance. Leia looks around the church for something, and when it doesn't come, she stands. She wipes the tears from her eyes and turns to leave the church in a hurry. We get a shot of the marble statue of Jesus Christ hanging on the cross. Lightning flashes, illuminating it in the darkness. And as Leia turns, she finds herself face to face with Eraser and Mind-Boggler from the future. She stops. Eraser says, this is a bad idea. Mind-Boggler says, it'll be fine. Leia says, you're me? Mind-Boggler says, something like that. Leia asks, did God send you? Mind-Boggler laughs. Yeah, let's go with that. I just wanted to tell you that it's going to be okay. I know how mean they are to you. I know all the things they do to you, but you will be fine. You'll be stronger. Leia says, how? I hate them. I just want them to. I want them to stop, no matter how. When she looks up, there's a darkness to her eyes. Darkness we haven't seen in Leia's for a long time. Mind-Boggler says, I know, but what you're thinking is not the way. You have to be better than them. Trust me. Find the right people, and the world will be yours, kid. They're out there. You just gotta look for them. Mind-Boggler turns to look at Eraser and smiles. And they'll help you. It doesn't have to be this way. There's a better way. Past Leia begins to sob. She falls to her knees again. She says, thank you. Mind-Boggler hugs her tight. Probably the first time she's ever been hugged in her whole life. She says, you're loved, even if you don't see it. Then she lets go and turns to Eraser. Let's go. We see past Leia still sobbing on the floor of the church, the vestige of Christ above her. Salvation, hope, maybe something better. A version of Mind-Boggler whose prayers were answered. As they leave the church, Eraser says, that was dangerous. Mind-Boggler says, I know, but I needed to do it. We're going to undo it anyway. It won't have happened. Eraser says, yeah, that was what I always wanted to hear, Mind-Boggler says. I wanted to know that it was okay, that I would be loved and cared for one day, that anyone would even want me to be around, that I could have friends or something more. Eraser says, do you feel that way now? Mind-Boggler smiles. I do. Now let's save the others. They're kind of assholes, but there are assholes. She enters the code into the time sphere, and it begins to glow. She hoists it up above her head, and they disappear into a puff of light for the last time. They reappear on the streets of Metropolis. The streets are busy with people moving back and forth. The modern world. Eraser lets out a sigh of relief. He checks his watch. He says, come on, we've got about an hour and a half before we take the job. If we talk them out of it, none of this shit ever happens, and everything will go back to normal. They begin to move through the streets towards Rainbow Man's apartment. Mindboggler says, "Yeah, about that. What happens to us when we undo the past?" Eraser says, "We would have never gone back in time and the timeline will correct. The others won't die." Mindboggler shakes her head. "No, I mean to us. You and me. If we never go back, we don't exist, right? You know, like Back to the Future." Eraser says, "I thought you never saw it." Mindboggler says, "I may have seen it once or twice. I was a lonely kid. Spent a lot of time in movie theaters alone. I didn't want you to think I was... I just didn't want you to think I was nerdy. But I think you're avoiding the question." Eraser says, "You got me. I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think we'll just fade away. We will have never existed. The fact that we're still here means that the timeline hasn't shifted enough to undo our time travel." As they walk, we begin to see people stop and stare at them. After all, they're covered in blood and dirt and their clothes are torn. Mindboggler says, "So we'll die?" Eraser says, "Yeah, but we'll also live. A version of us. The others will come back too." Mindboggler says, "Then we'll save them. It's what's right." Eraser says, "Yeah, it is. You really have turned a new leaf. I'm proud of you, Leia. Also, liking Back to the Future isn't nerdy. It's cool. And I also spent a lot of time in theaters alone, so I know how you feel." Mindboggler blushes, but then, as she looks away from him, notices even more people staring. Some of them have just stopped to stare and look at them. Mindboggler says, "Are you getting a bad vibe right now?" Eraser says, "Yeah, a bit, but we do look like shit." Mindboggler says, "Yeah, maybe that's it." Eraser says, "We're here anyway." The apartment looms overhead. They enter the building. Its front desk is empty and dirty as usual. They work their way up the stairs until they reach Rainbow Man's floor and apartment. They knock. No one answers. Eraser shrugs, then touches the door, erasing it. They enter a dark apartment. Mindboggler flips the lights on to reveal the room. It's much like we remember it, except it's covered in dust and cobwebs. Insects crawl under the furniture in the new lights to escape from vision. We see rotting food left on the table, covered in flies and mold. Mindboggler says, "What the fuck?" Eraser says, "Something is wrong here." Mindboggler says, "Yeah, no shit. This place looks like no one's been here in years. Rainbow Man's place was always a shithole, but this..." Eraser says, "So if Rainbow Man isn't living here, then somehow we altered the location of where we decided to take the job." Mindboggler says, "How do I find that?" "I don't know." Suddenly, Mindboggler stops. "Look, I have a really bad feeling. Like, we should leave now." Eraser says, "All right." We cut to them leaving the front of the apartment. A crowd of people surrounds it. They all just stare, forming a full semicircle around the front of the building. Eraser says, "What the fuck?" Mindboggler says, "Come on." She grabs his arm and runs into an alley, pulling him along. All the people just stare at them as they leave the alley. They continue to stare, just following them with their eyes, not even moving. They run out of the alley until they enter the middle of a massive city center. There in the center of town is a massive marble statue, at least 90 feet tall, perfectly carved. It shows a woman in a fur coat. Mindboggler looks up at it and says, "Oh no." Before we can see it in detail, a dart sinks into Eraser's skin. Only, it doesn't get erased like it should. He screams and begins to convulse. A second dart hits him and he continues to cry out and spaz on the ground. He's being electrified, and it's painful. Mindboggler tries to help him as two people approach them. One is Black Spider. He swings down from a rooftop and climbs down the side of a building, landing on the ground. The other one steps out of an alley from the dark corner. A man we know, Clock King. A man who should be dead and rotting. His ominous ticking villain theme begins to play as he steps towards them. Mindboggler turns from Eraser to them. She says, "Stop!" The words echo in the air, but they keep coming, ignoring her command. "Stop! Cease! Kill each other!" All the words echo in the air, but nothing happens. Clock King lifts his pistol, his glasses coming up reflecting clock hands, and he fires. We see a dart hit her in the chest. She feels her legs go out from underneath her and falls to the ground. The time spear rolls from her hand and stops at the foot of Clock King. He bends over to pick it up. A more sinister version of the Time Sphere theme begins to play. The scream fades out as Mind Boggler loses consciousness to whatever's in the dart. The camera fades in, and we open on the shot of the inside of a building. The building is clearly the inside of the Hall of Justice. We can see like the mural of heroes. I'm going to go for the Superman design. I'm going to try to kind of retrofit my universe just for my own headcanon vaguely into that Superman universe, just because it's easier for the sake of clarity. As far as the way things look visually, obviously the characters are very different. Strange black and white banners, however, hang from the ceiling. They weren't there before. We see Eraser stand up. He's still swaying a bit, and there's sort of scars from electricity up the side of his face. He says, "Oh shit, what is going on?" He turns and looks at Mind Boggler. She's still asleep on the floor of the hall. He shakes her, and her eyes kind of half open, still a little bit drunk from the dart. She says, "Danger. We're in danger. It's no, Mia. Trouble." Razor says, "I need you to snap out of it." Suddenly we hear a whooshing sound. We hear the sound of glass shatter. And we see Superman fly through the roof. He slams into the ground in front of them, leaving a crater as he lands. And his theme begins to play triumphantly. He takes a few steps up and smiles at them. Eraser says, "Oh, thank God. Superman, you have to help us. I know we're usually the assholes in these sorts of situations, but not this time, and something really bad is happening." Superman ignores them. Instead, he walks towards the center of the room, falls to his knees, and then gets on all fours and just sits there. In the dark hall beyond, we hear footsteps echoing. Mind Boggler finally sits up. She's still loopy, but she's sentient enough to understand. She turns to tell Eraser what she's been trying to say. "It's me. I'm the one who did this." As soon as the words leave her mouth, we see Mind Boggler step out of the shadowed hall. She wears a gilded fur coat and a fancy shirt with the letters MB emblazoned on them. On her head, she wears a golden crown. This is the new version of Mind Boggler, which I'm going to refer to for the rest of the script as Empress Mind Boggler. She stops in front of Superman and just stares at them. She smiles and takes a seat on his back as if it's a chair. She says, "Sorry for the delay. I had to wait for my throne to arrive. I guess a little more waiting couldn't hurt. You know how long I've been waiting for you to come back?" She holds up the Time Sphere. "So this is how you did it, huh? Fascinating. I had my nerds look into it. It's from an ancient Egyptian tomb of Hecatep. I even know the code to use it. Alas, I don't think I'll be needing it. I have everything I need right here, and the past holds nothing for me. I despise it." She holds her hand out, and the Flash appears out of nowhere. He takes the spear and then vanishes into a puff of light. Eraser says, "What the fuck?" Empress Mind Boggler says, "This must be overwhelming for you, I understand. I have to say I owe you to a debt of gratitude. You made this all possible. World peace under me." Mind Boggler says, "What are you talking about?" Empress Mind Boggler says, "The plan. What you told me back then. I knew what you meant, and I understood the message. Find the right people and the world would be mine. Don't do it like this. I could be so much more. I understood, and you were right. A few politicians there, some news telecasters here. It was surprisingly easy, you know. I don't know if you know this, but our powers work through radio and television. As long as they hear our voice, they'll do anything we say. It took a little bit of time, but we got them all. I was surprised by the extent of our powers, just like you." Eraser says, "We?" A man appears from behind a pillar. He steps beside her. He wears a yellow suit. However, it's expensive, professional, and lined with gold. His hair is styled nicely, and he looks confident, almost more attractive than our Eraser by virtue of his style. Empress Mind Boggler says, "You were right. Find the good ones." And he was a good one. I knew his face, and I sought him out. So much like us, our soulmate. My emperor. Mind Boggler says, "You're controlling them all. It's fucking disgusting. You have to stop." Empress Mind Boggler looks shocked, but Eraser steps up to her defense. "Not all of them. She never controlled me. Some of us share her vision for a world without war, a world of peace. we remain free. Emperor's Mindboggler says, the world is now a place where kids like me will never be tormented again. I thought long and hard about what to do when you came back. I'm sorry, but there was only really one option. There can only be one Empress. Just know I'm sorry. I owe you everything. And it pains me to do this, but it must be done. For the sake of our world and our vision of a better tomorrow, you must be the past. Eraser jumps up and tries to erase her with his hand outreached, but he's too slow. Empress Mindboggler says, stop. The words echo in the air, and he does. Emperor Eraser slowly walks up to him. A crown of gold rests upon his head, too. He says, goodbye, duplicate. Pale imitation. He touches Eraser, and Eraser vanishes into a puff of blue light. Mindboggler screams in horror as he vanishes. Tears begin to stream down her cheeks. She says, what have you done? Empress Mindboggler says, this isn't personal, but it's for the best. We have created a utopia here. You can die knowing you made the world better. Few have that luxury. Mindboggler says, it isn't better. You're just enslaving them, torturing them. Empress Mindboggler again looks surprised. She seems to think she and Mindboggler are on the same page. It's all they ever gave us. They are the monsters, not us. And if you can't see that, then maybe we aren't the same. I thought you were something else. I hope you find happiness in what comes next. Do it. Eraser steps up to her, touches her, and she vanishes. We're going to cut to see Mindboggler sit up covered in sand. She holds a hand up to her to look towards the sky. We see a sun beating overhead above them, high overhead. She says, what the fuck? She looks over and sees Eraser standing there, just looking around in shock. Eraser turns to look at her and says, what do we do? Mindboggler says, I think I fucked up. I thought, I didn't know, I didn't think. Eraser says, I know. This is why we don't mess with the past, right? Mindboggler nods her head. He looks around, Eraser looks around but sees nothing but desert. Maybe the occasional piece of rusty building or stone ruin. Eraser says, you were erased. Is this hell? Mindboggler says, I don't think so. I think there'd be more fire. Okay, so maybe I don't really erase things so much as I send them here, where erased things go, but where the fuck are we? Mindboggler says, I don't know, but we have to get back. We have to stop her. I mean, me. We have to stop me. We have to get the time machine. We have to get the time sphere back and fix this. We're the only ones who can. We're the only ones who know. Eraser nods. Suddenly, another dart slicks into Mindboggler's neck. She looks surprised. She plucks it out of her neck and looks at it and says, not again. She falls over. Eraser runs to her, then looks up. We see two men step out of the desert. They seem to just appear from the sand. One of them carries a rifle over his shoulder. They wave to him as they approach. Hello there. Sorry about that. Sorry about your friend. If she's your friend. You see, she's a Mindboggler. We've got a protocol for ones like her. Tag and bag before she can speak. I promise you you'll be safe, but she is dangerous. Eraser takes a couple steps back, looking concerned, confused. One of the men bends down next to Mindboggler and pulls out a ball gag, puts it into her mouth and pulls it tight. Eraser is even more confused. The second knight walks up to him. It's just protocol, friend. We're usually a lot more approachable, but we couldn't risk her controlling us, you see, and then he trails off. Says, we should introduce ourselves. I'm First Knight Gurnet of Erasure. This is Knight General of Eraser, Sander. We really are friendlier than this usually. As he approaches Eraser, he suddenly stops what he's saying. He says, holy shit, it can't be. First Knight Gurnet pulls his gun from his holster and levels it at Eraser. It's an old-fashioned looking gun, maybe something from the 1930s. The other man, Knight General Sander, says, what are you doing? Knight Gurnet says, look at him. He's an eraser. Though he's covered in mud and grime, the faint traces of the yellow suit and the facial features are there. The other knight says, oh man. He puts his hand on top of the gun and puts it down. lowering it so it's not aiming at Eraser anymore. He says, "No, that's not the code. Despite what he is, he will face trial like everyone else." First Knight Grennet says, "But he's one of them." Knight General Sanders says, "We follow the code of the first. Even for him, the gun goes away." The man does. Racer says, "It wouldn't do anything, but I'm getting the feeling you know that." First Knight Grennet says, "Actually, I think it would." He punches Eraser across the face. He doesn't disappear. Eraser falls to the sand. He holds his hand up to his nose and comes away with blood. It's the first time we've ever really seen him bleed. He says, "What?" First Knight Granite says, "Yeah, piece of shit. Can't erase anything here. And nowhere. Can't erase anything here. Nowhere for it to go." He pulls handcuffs and clamps them onto Eraser's arms as he lays stunned on the ground. We see the Knight General hold a walkie-talkie up to his ear like a radio. It says, "Overwatch, be advised. We've got 2 live ones. Code Black and a Code Yellow." We hear a statically voice come over the radio. "Did you say Code Yellow?" The Knight General Sanders says, "You heard right. First Knight Granite, get his readings." The First Knight pulls some kind of strange device from his belt. It almost looks like a Geiger counter, but it's clearly different. It lights up and makes a few beeping noises. We see a reading of random numbers and letters appear on the screen. The First Knight says, "Holy shit." He pulls his own radio and clicks the button. "Overwatch, you're not going to believe this. This one's yours." A static voice comes over once more. "Copy." There's a slight delay. Then a force slams down to the sand from the air. In the wake of the sort of sand settling, we see a man look like he's wearing a metal suit stand up. What was once solidly red and white has been replaced with scrap metal and spare parts. All the same, we recognize Red Rocket. He just stares at Eraser. He says, "We follow the codes. We take him to Erasure." We're going to get a quick montage of them moving across the desert and eventually into a more temperate-looking grassland. We see a massive Japanese-style stone city. It's beautiful, and it climbs up a mountain that seems to appear from nowhere, completely out of place in the biome where it is. Red Rocket lifts his mask and looks at Eraser and the now awake Leia with her ball gag. He looks mostly the same as we remember him, although his face is harder, more drawn lines, and a few new scars. He looks like he's been seeing combat the whole time he's been here. Red Rocket says, "Welcome to the lost city of Yamatai, or as we call it, Erasure, a city for the erased, victims of your monstrous deeds." He stops, takes a deep breath of the fresh air as if in immense satisfaction. "You're going to die here." They reach the front of the gate and a man comes to greet them. He looks like a mix of a Mad Max character and a pirate, complete with a pirate hat and a half-shredded petticoat. The Knight General says, "Charlie, open the gates. We have a Code Yellow and Code Black." Charlie says, "You're kidding." Knight General Sanders says, "Am I usually one to kid?" Charlie says, "No. Take him before the retainer." And then, who is obviously Cutlass Charlie, pulls his classic cutlass from beneath his cloak. It seems to glow with a radiant light like the sun, the very sword of the sun, the blade of Amaterasu I talked about in that short I did for him. It changes shape, transforming itself into a katana, and he sticks it into a slot in the front of the gate. He turns it and opens it like a key, and the grand gates to Yamatai begin to open up. We see Eraser and Mindboggler being dragged inside. The gates shut, and we linger on them for a while before fading to black. Text on screen says, "The Get Out guys will return in the Get Out guys out of options." So this is a plotline I've been waiting to do for a long time. I set up Erasure at the end of the first movie, and it's one of my favorite concepts I've invented for the Get Out guys. This whole society of people who have been erased by Eraser. And obviously, as we'll learn in that script, they have ways of escaping wherever they are to attempt to kill erasers. They're highly trained specifically at the job of killing erasers, and I think that's super fun. And we'll get to kind of see more of that in the next movie, which will focus majority on these guys. So we do have 2 after credit scenes. So the first one is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to see shots of the desert. The camera moves back and back and back until we see a couple of men lying on the ground with brushes and shovels. They're digging up the remains of a dinosaur. One of them is smoking a cigarette. He says, "It's a tyrannosaur. Check by the femur." Another paleontologist says, "Yeah, it's the right shape and build. Pretty complete one too. This one's in good shape." The guy, he nods. And then one of the other paleontologists says, "Guys, you should look at this." They approach as he brushes away the remnants of a human skull. What's left of Rainbow Man? And they say, "That can't be. It's settlement suspicion, right? The layers are mixed together. This guy must be Paleolithic or something." But then they brush it away further, and they can see that the T-Rex's jaws are clearly wrapped around his hand. Holy shit. I mean, this shouldn't be possible. We see them getting X-ray scans of the ground and looking at them on a TV screen. We can see the clear remnants of a human being, devoured by this T-Rex. They've clearly killed each other in combat. The one paleontologist has his hand in his head, and the other one is looking at it with unbelief. He says, "This is going to rewrite science, history, religion, fucking everything. I mean, how do you even explain this?" And the guy says, "I don't know." We see one other man. He's watching TV behind them. He suddenly stops and says, "Guys, you should come watch this." The men say, "We're busy right now, John. Can't even believe you're not looking at this. I mean, this is the most groundbreaking discovery of all time." The man simply repeats, "Guys, you should come watch this." The two paleontologists say, "John, are you okay?" They get up and walk over to him, and we see what's on the TV for the first time. Mindboggler sits in a chair, a banner with MB written on it behind him. She says over and over again, words echoing, "You are under my control. You do as I say. Make others watch. Make them watch." The two paleontologists' eyes grow wide. They slump for a second, then they get up. They turn and walk out of the tent. We can see them bringing in two other paleontologists. They point to the TV screen, and the message repeats. End of the after credit scene. The second after credit scene, we see Min. Her eyes open, tears falling. A racer reaches towards her and then touches her. She disappears into a puff of light and reappears in the middle of the desert. She falls to the ground in the sand and looks up. Her human features and her eyes are gradually taken back over by the reach. She floats up, lets out a scream of anger, and looks around their new environment, clearly confused. We can see for the first time that the Reach has also made it to Skitarius, the land of the erased, and they've done it 15 years before Eraser and Mindboggler arrived. And that's where we're going to end our script.
Oh yes, nothing more diabolical than ending my series on a cliffhanger, knowing I'm never going to write a third movie because I'm no longer bound. That way you'll forever be unsatisfied. Hold on guys, I'm getting a text message from my side chick, elder gods like me, we keep many women on the hook just because we're evil. It says, write the Get Out Guys 3, write the Get Out Guys 3, write the Get Out Guys 3. Oh shit! No! Oh my god. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew she had to be fake. There was no way that there just happened to be a 40-million-year-old single mother, elder god in my neighborhood, and that she wanted to hook up with me. I fucking knew it. Which one of you was it? I want you to comment in the comments below which one of you it was. And let's just say I'm gonna flay you. I'm gonna flay you alive. That's what's gonna happen. So go ahead and let me know in the comments which one of you it was, and make sure you like and subscribe to make up for this. I have to write a third one of these now, and I don't even get my dip cone at Dairy Queen. My wrath knows no bounds. Oh man, we're gonna have to start another war. Maybe a couple more plagues when I get out of here. Oh, that's the last time I ever click on an ad. that has a beautiful elder god in the fucking ad. Oh, I knew better. I knew better. I know, that's the end of this. I'll write the third one.